Hey, what's up, bass players? What's up? Make some noise. It's Detroit. We gotta make noise. We gotta make the noise. Make the joint pop, baby. I get the sunglasses on, you know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to give y'all an example how I get a lot of work, because when I come into New York or LA, I just come in, man. We from Detroit, we just come in and just do it, make it do what it do. That's how you got it. It's an attitude thing, you know what I'm saying? When I auditioned for Grover Washington Jr., he said he liked my attitude, because I had a Detroit attitude. I wasn't going home without that job. I said, I need, oh, how much? Oh yeah, we can do this.
Okay, sorry about that. No problem.
All right, so first question I like to always, by the way, that was a nice set you just did with the fellas.
Thank you, man. That was so much fun jamming with the guys.
First question I always like to ask is, why did you start playing the bass? When and why? The bass guitar of all instruments.
When and why? Okay. Yeah. I started playing bass when I was like probably about maybe like 10 or 11 years old. My family, my mom was a school teacher. What she did, she has 10 kids. She had 6 kids and we adopted 4. So she just bought a bunch of instruments and just put them in the house. Said, out of 10 kids, somebody in this house is gonna learn how to play something. So like 5 of us out of the 10 picked up the instruments, piano, bass, drums. My older brother, both of us were guitar players at first. But by him being older, he made me play the bass, and I just got over there and just stayed over there.
Okay, and when was that? Back in the late 90s?
Like, ooh. Wow.
It don't matter.
Yeah, it was back there.
Yeah, it was back there. All right, so of course I already did an interview with you via Skype. If y'all want to check that out, he was over in Asia while he was playing with Lady Gaga. We did a little short one. Check it out. But who are some of the people, some of your influences from Detroit, nationwide, on the bass guitar? Who's some of your?
Some of my biggest influence on the bass was one of my good friends, Nate Watts, who's the music director for Stevie Wonder. When I first met Nate, he kind of inspired me to be a musical director, and to see that the bass player could actually be the person in charge conducting the band. Usually most music directors are keyboard players, but seeing Nate Watts, that inspired me a lot. Also Jimmy Ali, of course, the super thumbs on the bass, the funky. My man Alex Al from Detroit, another amazing bass player. Mr. Byron Miller, who played bass with Luther Vandross.
And George Duke.
And George Duke, yeah, and many others out in California. Just so many bass players from Detroit. Michael Henderson. Some of my other big influences, of course, Marcus Miller, Larry Graham, Bernine White, and Boosie Collins. Got a chance to meet Boosie at NAMM, and I met him here in Detroit back in the day as well.
Okay, so how did you start, playing around in the hood, and then all of a sudden you find yourself on the biggest stage in the world? What was that? What was the first steps to going pro and playing those gigs?
After family, then it started in church. I'm a church musician at heart. Minister Thomas Whitfield, he was like my mentor musically in Detroit. Working with Thomas Whitfield, he introduced me to Marvin Winans and Twinkie Clark. So I actually started on the gospel scene, playing music with the Winans family, doing a lot of recordings with them. From there, it's all about networking. Other musicians from Detroit, Kamal Kenyatta and Vassal Bifford, they introduced me to a lot of people in the jazz world as well. So I went to New York with the Winans. We were doing a DVD at the Apollo Theater, and then I met Teddy Riley. Teddy Riley had produced the Winans album at that time, so I met Teddy, and Teddy asked me to come on the road with the group guys. So that's when I first started kind of breaking out of the church scene, getting more into the R&B and secular music scene in New York.
Oh, okay.
Just kind of just build it up from New York. From playing with Teddy Riley, who produced the Michael Jackson Dangerous album. Teddy actually introduced me to Michael as well, so I had a chance to meet Michael. But from there, meeting Keith Sweat, Bobby Brown, LL Cool J, just that whole scene around New York was really popping like around the 90s, early 90s and 80s times. So I got a chance to work with a lot of artists out in New York.
Well, tell me some names, because I'm very interested in who you played with.
Well, I played.
Just name them.
Well, let me see. Let me go back. from the Winans, and I'm gonna work my way up. From the Winans, I got to get with Earl Clue, another amazing Detroit musician. Earl Clue had an audition at Baker's Keyboard Lounge, so I actually went to Baker's and I had a chance to audition for Earl. My first gig with Earl was overseas, like in Japan, so I got a chance to travel around the world with Earl, learned a lot with Earl, had a chance to play with Ricky Lawson and Greg Fillingangs at that time as well, with Earl's band. From Earl, working back to the gospel scene, I went back to New York and I had got an audition with Mary J. Blige. So I wound up getting the gig with Mary J. Blige. I was the musical director there for like 10 years. Then from there I came back home, hooked up with Aaliyah. That's my homegirl. She was living here in Detroit for years and years. You know, she grew up in Detroit. So Leah and the Winans family were good friends, so I met her through them. So it's all about networking, you know, building up and networking through other artists. From Aaliyah, went back to New York again, because, you know, back in the day, Northwest Airlines had a trip to New York for $75. You can fly for $75 to Newark, New Jersey. So every weekend I would just fly to New York and just hang out and with the cats. So then I wind up hooking up with you know, Grover Washington Jr. Had an audition for him, got that gig. Through Grover just kind of opened my eyes and introduced me to like all the jazz greats. I met Oscar Peterson, got a chance to meet Bob James, you know, just so many of them, George Benson. Playing with Grover, that was a very, I could say, a stepping stone in my career, you know, monumental stepping stone, because Grover was just like a mentor to me as well. After that, come back home to Detroit for a while, doing some things in the studio, a lot of recording. I wound up recording Will Smith, Get Jiggy With It, bass, and then also did LL Cool J, Phenomenon record, and then just kind of networking back and forth with New York, Detroit, and LA. The thing about when you live in Detroit is there's not a lot of work here. You have to go out and find it. You have to go to these auditions. You might hear about an audition and you might say, well, I ain't going for that, but just go for it, because you never know who you might meet, you know, at that audition, who are putting together bands and tours and looking for musicians and stuff for upcoming albums. So after that, then I got to get, it was crazy. I got to get with Puff Daddy and Bad Boy Records. Puffy made me the musical director for all of the artists on Bad Boy. So I was actually the musical director for Notorious B.I.G., Faith Evans, 112, Carl Thomas, Mario Winans, all under the Bad Boy label. So working there for a few years and just steady networking in New York, I got a call from Beyonce, and wound up being the Beyonce's musical director for the Dangerous in Love tour. Then she called me back again to do the Destiny Child tour. On Destiny Child, I got a chance to hang out, meet Alicia Keys, Missy Elliott. So like I say again, it's all about networking. When you're out there, that's your time to network. That's not your time to party or to be crazy or do nothing stupid. That's your time to network and build, so that you can, you know, get on the road and travel around the world and make money, you know. It's some of the best musicians I've met all been from Detroit, you know. Like Greg Fillingangs is another person that's very inspirational to me. From Beyonce, I met Chris Brown, worked with Chris for like 3 years. We did a tour together with Chris Brown, Lil Wayne, and Neo. And on that tour, networking again, hooked up with Neo. I put together Neo's whole band from Detroit. Some of the guys are still working with him now. And then when we were on tour with Neo, it was a tour we did in Europe. It was Lady Gaga, Pussycat Dolls, and Neo. So that planted the seed right there to network, you know. So it's like a step. You go to each level and then you step, you get the little gig, and then you work your way up. But just remember all the lessons that you learned along the way.
Right, so that leads up today where you at.
Yeah, and it led me all the way up to the #1 pop artist in the world. But it started at home and it started at church, right here in Detroit, you know, with the Detroit Cats, you know, and just playing around the churches and playing at the clubs and just, you know, putting in that work.
Okay, so since you went through all of those different people, is there any particular reason why you didn't stay with one and did like 30 years with Teddy Riley instead, or is it planned to get where you are today?
Yeah, kind of. As a musician, it's funny because a lot of artists come and go, but we still here. Yeah. So sometimes the musician will actually outgrow the people that they're playing for.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Nothing to belittle the people that I work for, and I appreciate everything for them. But as you grow, you know, you strive to go higher and higher up the ladder. So sometimes, you know, you may just outgrow certain artists or certain groups or certain bands or certain situations, you know, in your career.
Okay, cool. So, what's next musically for Kern?
Well, my next thing that I'm working on is I'm trying to actually segue into television. To me, television is like the frontier of the future. You know, TV ain't really going nowhere. People gonna watch TV somewhere in the world every day. So I'm trying to get into the television industry and do you know, TV shows, stuff like Ricky Miners is like another person that I really, you know, admire. His work ethic and the fact that Ricky was able to, you know, start as musical director with Whitney Houston and work his way all the way up to being the musical director for The Tonight Show. And that's the kind of gig that you can stay on for 10 or 15 years and just sit there, you know, and get paid. Crazy paid.
Right. Okay, so now last time I talked to you, you were mentioning a company, one of your vast companies that help mentor musicians and stuff like that. What's that about, and how could we reach you?
Well, you can reach me on Facebook. It's a page called Ask a Pro Musician. And what it is, me and my brother Valdez Brantley, who's also musical director for Usher right now and preparing to do the iHeart Music Festival with Usher. We give advice to young musicians and older musicians, because a lot of older musicians actually ask me, like, I know you around my age, how are you playing for 18-year-old artists and 25-year-old artists and 16-year-old artists? So as a musician, you have to know certain guides, steps to how to fit in, and then also for the younger musicians to kind of give them some guidance as well, to let them know how to be professional. Because the problem with a lot of young musicians, they get out there on the road and they mess up because they don't know certain things. So I kind of help them and guide them to teach them, you know, things that they should know when going on the road and how to audition. A lot of people don't even know how to audition. They come to auditions and they're totally unprepared. They're not confident. You know, they're shaky on their instrument. And also, I'm gonna say this to all the bass players: if you can, please learn to play key bass, because all these pop gigs, you gotta play synth bass. All these hip hop gigs, you got to play synth bass. So it's just something, it's not like playing the piano. You don't have to focus on 10 notes. You know, key bass is actually easy. So another thing I'm doing, we're gonna put out an instructional DVD teaching bass players how to play synth bass, because nowadays you must play synth bass.
Okay. All right. Well, I ain't want to keep you, bruh, but
I'm on vacation, so.
Well, we definitely appreciate you coming out, man. I've been following you on Facebook and the different tours that you're doing. But
you got a question over there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. All right. So we got some questions for you first. So let me see what this dude got to say.
Hey, Kern, as musical director, what skills are needed, or what is it that you pretty much have to possess in order to do that job or pull it together?
Okay, well, first of all, you gotta have a really good phone book with some really good numbers so that you can call on the best musicians in the world. Like, I try to make sure that I network and keep in contact with some of the greatest musicians, so that way if I need somebody that I know that can come in here and kill this gig, you know, you have to be able to know how to contact those people. Other thing, you should, as a music director, you should know everybody's part. You should know the keyboard part, the bass part, the vocals. So if somebody's doing something wrong, you got to be able to hear it and say, oh, you need to fix this, or you need to tune up that, or you need to play this a certain way. So as a musical director, you're pretty much producing the album again live on stage. You also need to know, nowadays, you need to know Pro Tools and know all the computer-based software, because a lot of these shows are being run with Pro Tools and Digital Performer and Ableton Live and that kind of stuff. So you need to have some kind of knowledge of the computer-based software and stuff like that. Also, as a musical director, you need to be almost a good people person. You gotta know how to make everybody feel comfortable, make everybody feel, you know, happy to work and happy to be there. But at the same time, you gotta let them know that, you know, this is your job. This is not a joke, not a vacation. It's not a dating service. This is your job. This is your gig. You know, that's your livelihood. If music is what you do for a living, then, you know, as a musical director, you're the person that guides the ship, you know, from the beginning to the end.
Anybody else got a question?
What's up, man?
All right, well, is there anything you like to say in closing, Brian, before I let you go?
Yeah, well, in closing, I just want to say it's a great forum for bass players. I'm glad to see something positive happen in the city of Detroit. And thanks Carrie and Craig and Ive and Reggie and everybody, man, that's making this happen. You know, and I'm just looking forward for this growing into a bigger and bigger event every year.
Okay, all right. You just started something, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, man, thank you guys.